Hello, it's Laci here. Have you ever had someone you loved betray you in the worst way possible? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. My own sister hijacked my $460,000 corporate tribute, and what happened next? My husband played the tape that exposed everything. But why would someone in your family do this to you? The lies, the manipulation, it hurt more than I can describe. But what would you do if you were in my shoes? Have you ever been left out, tricked, or betrayed by someone you trusted? Drop a comment below and let me know. Where are you watching from, and have you ever had to fight for what's yours? The gathering was supposed to be like any other, a quiet dinner in the family home, the kind that we had for years. The house smelled faintly of lavender, the kind of calm aroma that made everything feel safe and predictable. But nothing was safe that night, nothing predictable, not anymore. I stood in the middle of the living room, my hand trembling as I held the recorder, the one that held the truth, the one that would shatter everything. I turned the knob, and the sharp click of the play button echoed in the room. The moment the first words spilled from the speakers, the room froze. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but it was everything. Don't worry about Laci, she won't even notice the missing funds. She never pays attention to that stuff, my mother's voice said, smooth and confident. My heart dropped. This wasn't a conversation about money, it was about betrayal. My mother, my brother, conspiring behind my back, my life, my trust, my family, destroyed in a single sentence. I stood there, frozen, my breath hitched. I could barely comprehend what was unfolding. For years, I had been the dutiful daughter, the one who always did what was expected, who never asked questions, who allowed herself to be overshadowed. But now, everything had changed. The silence was unbearable. I glanced at my family's faces, my mother, sitting motionless, her face drained of color. My brother sitting beside her, his eyes darting nervously. The air was thick with shame, with guilt. But none of them spoke, none of them could. I couldn't take it anymore. I could feel my body shaking, but the fire inside me burned hotter than the fear. I wasn't the naive little sister anymore. I wasn't the overlooked child who stayed in the background, waiting for love that would never come. You think I wouldn't find out, I spoke, my voice steady and cold, belying the storm inside me. My mother opened her mouth, but nothing came out. She was speechless. She knew. We all knew. The truth was out. I thought I would cry. I thought I would scream. But I didn't. I didn't need to. The silence between us now was the loudest sound I'd ever heard. The years of repression, the quiet hurt, the small sacrifices, all of it came rushing back to me. The childhood moments when I had been pushed aside, when my achievements were belittled by the very people who should have been proud. All of it had built up over time. All of it had prepared me for this. But it wasn't just the betrayal that stung. It was the realization that I had been complicit. I had let it happen. I had allowed them to manipulate me, to push me aside, all in the name of family. I had thought that if I just worked harder, if I kept proving myself, they would see me. But it was never about me. It was about control. And I had been nothing more than a pawn in their game. Reeve, my husband, stood beside me, his hand resting gently on my back. He had always been my partner, my confidant. But tonight, he wasn't just comforting me. He was my ally in a fight that I had been avoiding for far too long. "Are you okay?" he whispered, his voice a low murmur. I nodded, though I wasn't sure what okay meant anymore. The woman I had been was gone. She had to be. There was no turning back now. "You're not alone in this, Laci," Reeve continued. His voice was firm, but there was a softness there, a promise. "We'll fix this." And suddenly, in that moment, I wasn't just a woman scorned. I was a woman with a purpose. The room remained still as I gathered the courage to speak again. "My family has lied to me for years," I said, my voice growing stronger. "And tonight, I'm done." The words rang in my ears as if I hadn't said them myself, but they were real. This was real. I turned to my mother and brother, my voice unyielding. You've manipulated me long enough, but not anymore. I'm going to expose every single one of your lies." They couldn't say anything. My brother shifted uncomfortably in his seat, his eyes not meeting mine. My mother's face had gone pale, and I saw a flicker of regret, but it was too late. There would be no more silence, no more cover-ups. Later that evening, as I sat in the comfort of my own home, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just crossed a line. It felt strange, this mix of liberation and fear. The tape had given me the power I'd been lacking for years, but it also came with a heavy cost. Would they fight back? Would they try to destroy me for exposing the truth? I couldn't answer those questions yet. All I knew was that I had started a battle that I couldn't walk away from. My family had broken me, but now it was time for me to break free. As I stood in front of the mirror, I barely recognized the woman looking back at me. She was stronger, she was bolder, and for the first time she wasn't afraid. The discovery hit me like a freight train. I had always trusted my family, believed in them, even when they dismissed me, belittled my success, and constantly made me feel small. But this? This was a betrayal on a scale I had never imagined. I had always known there was something off about the way they treated me, but the truth was buried beneath layers of lies, and I had just unearthed it all. The file folder lay on my desk, its yellowing edges poking out from underneath the others. I had been going through my mother's paperwork, trying to make sense of the mess she had left behind when I found it. The documents were neatly stacked, too neatly, as if to hide the ugliness within. I hesitated, knowing I shouldn't dive deeper, but my fingers trembled as I pulled out the first page. The loan documents, the ones where my mother had used my name without my permission to borrow money, not just a small sum. She had signed me into loans for Crosby, a family friend who had always been trouble, someone I had never trusted. It was all there in black and white, my signature, obviously forged, and the staggering amounts of money they'd borrowed, all without my knowledge. I sat there for a moment, stunned. How could she have done this to me, my own mother, my own blood? The anger burned through me, hot and swift. I had been so blind, so willing to believe that everything they did was for the good of the family. But this was no accident. This was deliberate. It was a manipulation, a financial scheme to exploit me. I could feel the walls closing in on me. Every breath felt heavier. I thought of the sacrifices I had made for them over the years, the times I let myself be overlooked and ignored, thinking that my love and loyalty would be enough. But it wasn't. It never was. They had taken advantage of my trust, my finances, my very name. I slammed the file shut, my heart racing. I had to confront this. I couldn't let this go. I had to make them see what they had done to me, to all of us. But how? How do you confront your own mother when she's been part of the very conspiracy that's ruining your life? I leaned back in my chair, my mind spinning. Reeve's voice echoed in my head, reminding me that I wasn't alone in this. But this wasn't just about me anymore. This was about justice, and it was about time someone in this family took responsibility for their actions. As the days passed, I dove deeper into the evidence. Each document was a dagger to my heart, and yet it fueled the fire inside me. With Reeve by my side, we methodically went through every file, every email, every text. There was no turning back now. I could feel the pieces falling into place, the financial records, the hidden loans, the lies, everything. The picture that emerged wasn't just one of betrayal. It was one of a well-oiled machine, a family dynamic built on deceit and manipulation, where I had been nothing but a pawn. Reeve was my rock, his support unwavering. He helped me strategize, helped me formulate a plan for what came next. With his help, I was no longer just the hurt daughter. I was a woman armed with evidence, and I would no longer stand idly by as my family continued to take from me. The betrayal was personal, but it was also financial. They had used my name, my reputation, and my trust to secure loans that they couldn't repay. Loans that I would now be liable for if I didn't act fast. But beyond that, they had used me. They had manipulated me for their own gain. They had taken advantage of my loyalty, my dedication to them. I couldn't shake the feeling that this was more than just about money. It was about control. It was about power. And now it was about taking it all back. Flashbacks started to surface, memories of my childhood, of being pushed aside for my brother, of watching my achievements go unnoticed. I remembered the subtle ways my family had always treated me differently, always favored him. It wasn't just the financial deceit, it was a lifetime of neglect, of being silenced in my own family. It was a pattern I hadn't realized until now, and it cut deeper than anything else ever could. 16 years ago, I had been sitting at the dinner table, listening as my mother praised my brother for his latest achievement. I had worked so hard, had sacrificed so much to prove myself, yet it was always him, always the favorite. The look in her eyes when she spoke of him, the way she smiled when he did something, anything, that proved his worth to her. It was the same look she gave Crosby when he was around. The same look she gave when she stole from me. The discovery of the loans was the last straw. My mother had crossed a line, one that I couldn't ignore any longer. I had spent years trying to please them, trying to be enough, but I wasn't. Not to them, not to anyone. And now, with the evidence in hand, I had the power, I had the truth. But what to do with it? I thought of confronting my mother directly, of going to her and demanding answers, but I knew that wouldn't work. I knew she would deny everything, spin her web of lies to try and keep me in the dark. No, I couldn't confront her. Not yet. But I could use the legal system. I could take the fight to the courtroom. I could expose them, expose everything they had done to me, to my family, to my life. The thought of it terrified me. It would destroy everything. The family would never be the same. But was that a reason to stay silent? To let them get away with what they had done? Number, it wasn't. I wasn't going to let them win. I wasn't going to let them keep taking from me, from us. The fight was on, and I was ready. With Reeve at my side, I knew I had the strength to go through with it. He was more than just my husband. He was my ally, my partner in this battle. And together, we would make sure that my family paid for the damage they had done. As the evidence piled up, the pressure built. But I had a plan. I had the truth. And now I was going to make sure it saw the light of day. I stood at the courtroom door, my heart hammering in my chest as I steeled myself for what was about to unfold. My fingers trembled slightly as I gripped the file in my hands. The weight of the evidence inside was more than just paper. It was the culmination of months of pain, secrets, and betrayal. Reeve was beside me, his steady presence a quiet reassurance. His eyes met mine, filled with determination. He had been with me through every step of this, and today was no different. "You're ready," he whispered, but there was an edge to his voice, the quiet anticipation of what was coming. I nodded, though my mind was a whirlwind. Zanaya's appearance had already unsettled me, but now, in the heart of this battle, I needed to stay focused. I needed to stand strong, despite the fear clawing at me from within. It was the moment of reckoning. My family had betrayed me in ways that I couldn't have imagined, and now I was about to face them head-on. The door to the courtroom swung open, and there she was, Zanaya, standing tall by the Carlene family's side, a silent figure in this tumultuous sea of chaos. She didn't acknowledge me at first, but I could feel her eyes on me, assessing. I had no idea what she would do or say, but one thing was clear. Her presence here was going to change everything. The moment Zanaya stepped forward, I felt the surge of anger rise in my chest. This wasn't just a legal battle anymore. It was personal. How could she stand with them after everything that had happened? After what she knew? Her loyalty was something I had never questioned before, but now I couldn't help but feel a deep betrayal. The tension in the courtroom grew as Zanaya made her way to the witness stand. She wasn't just a mere spectator anymore. She was going to speak, and as she did, she would change the direction of this entire fight. I wanted to scream, to charge at her with all the hurt I felt, but I had to keep it together. I had to trust the process. I had to stay calm. The judge called the proceedings to order, and Zanaya's voice echoed through the room. "I've been silent for too long," she began, her words slow but deliberate. "I was manipulated. I was told things that weren't true. And now I'm here to tell the truth." I froze, my stomach dropping. The room was silent except for the sound of my own breath, coming in shallow, sharp bursts. Was this really happening? Was she turning on them? I couldn't breathe. "I never wanted to be part of this," Zanaya continued, her eyes now on me. "But I see now that I was just as much a pawn as Laci." She looked at my mother and brother, her gaze unwavering. I didn't know the extent of what they were doing, but I know now, and I can't stay silent anymore. I wanted to leap from my seat and hug her, but instead, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. This was the twist I hadn't expected, the ally I hadn't seen coming. Zanaya's betrayal had stung, but her coming forward, offering this crucial testimony, was something I hadn't anticipated. Her shift was monumental, not just for the case, but for me. She had provided the final piece of the puzzle. The documents she brought forward, documents that exposed the depth of the conspiracy, were irrefutable. This was it. The end of the road for Carlene and Crosby. Their empire of lies was collapsing around them. But the cost of this victory wasn't lost on me. Betrayal had seeped into every part of my life, and now I was standing on the precipice of something even bigger. A legal battle that could break my family apart even further. The judge acknowledged Zanaya's testimony, and my heart thundered in my chest. This wasn't just a victory in the courtroom. It was a victory over my own fear, over the years of silence, of being the family's scapegoat. As the gavel came down, sealing the fate of the case, I felt a rush of adrenaline surge through me. But it was quickly replaced by something darker: anxiety. What would happen next? What would my family do now that the truth had come to light? Just as the thought crossed my mind, the door opened again. A new figure stepped inside, and I felt my entire body go rigid. This person, someone I didn't recognize, was about to change everything. The courtroom's atmosphere shifted again, the tension now palpable. "Who is that?" Reeve murmured, his voice low. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My mind was already racing, trying to process the new player in this already volatile game. The witness approached the stand, and the truth, once again, began to unravel in ways I hadn't expected. The last piece was falling into place. I sat in the courtroom, my heart pounding in my chest. The air was thick with tension, the kind that made it hard to breathe, yet I couldn't look away. Today was the day. It wasn't just a trial. It was the day my entire life was about to change, and I could feel the weight of it pressing down on me. The judge called the proceedings to order, but my mind was elsewhere. The files on the table in front of me seemed so insignificant compared to the storm brewing in my head. I could see their faces, Carlene's smirk, Crosby's dismissive glare, but nothing would prepare me for the next shock that was about to unfold. Zanaya walked into the courtroom. The murmurs that rippled through the room were like a shockwave. I had no idea she was even involved in this case, but there she was, standing with my mother's side. My gut twisted. I tried to steady my breath, but it was impossible. Zanaya had been close, too close for comfort. The thought of her siding with them was something I hadn't prepared for. I locked eyes with her for a brief second, and the familiarity of her stare hit me like a ton of bricks. It was the same stare she had when we were younger, the one that always seemed to hide something. Her presence now was more than just an inconvenience. It felt like a betrayal. But I wasn't going to let her, or anyone, stop me. The trial continued, and then the unexpected happened. Zinnia rose to speak. Her voice cut through the tension like a knife. "I've been silent for too long," she said, her words clear and steady. "I know what you all think of me, but I can't stand by and let this go any longer." My stomach turned. This was it. She wasn't just here to watch, she was here to speak. "I've been manipulated," Zinaya continued, her eyes flickering to my mother. "I didn't realize it at first, but now I see it all. I've been a pawn in a game I didn't even know I was playing." The words she spoke shattered something deep inside me. Betrayal. It was too much. I'd seen it in my family before, but hearing it from her, someone I once trusted, made it feel different. Worse. Then, she did something I never expected. "I have documents," she said, pulling out a set of papers. "These documents link Crosby and Carlene to fraudulent activities that go deeper than anyone here has acknowledged." The room fell silent. My pulse raced. This wasn't just a twist, it was a game changer. Zinaya's shift in allegiance didn't just provide new evidence, it brought me a sense of relief I hadn't known I needed. I wasn't alone in this anymore. The evidence she brought forward was a crucial part of the puzzle, and it validated everything I had been fighting for. But the truth didn't come without a cost. The emotional weight of it hit me harder than I expected. The realization that my family had manipulated not only me, but the people around me, the people I once trusted, was overwhelming. The anger boiled up inside me. They had turned every relationship into a lie, every smile into a mask. But this was my moment. This was the moment I would reclaim my life. The judge, still processing the magnitude of what Zinaya had said, called for a short recess. I was left alone with my thoughts, and the silence in the courtroom seemed to echo around me. I stood up, walking to the window. The world outside was so calm, so unaware of the war I was fighting. I took a deep breath and turned back to the table where the evidence was spread out. The last part of the puzzle had clicked into place. I was no longer just defending myself, I was taking control. And then, just when I thought it couldn't get worse, a figure stepped forward. A man I didn't recognize. His presence was as sudden as it was unexpected. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting for his answer. He didn't speak right away. His gaze shifted between the papers in my hands and the Carlene family, who had grown increasingly uneasy. When he finally spoke, his voice was steady but heavy with the weight of the truth. "I have something that will change everything," he said. My heart skipped. What was he talking about? What could he possibly have that could shift the course of this battle? The witness stepped forward, his eyes locked on my family. "I've been watching this from the outside for a long time," he said, "and I know things that you all don't." My mind raced as the implications of his words settled in. What was this? What was about to come to light? Was this the final piece of the puzzle, or something worse? The tension in the room was palpable as the witness began to speak, revealing hidden truths that no one had expected. The truth about the Carlene family's corruption was no longer a shadow. It was real, and it was about to destroy everything they'd built. The room seemed to close in on me. This was it. The final confrontation had begun, and the weight of everything I'd been through, everything I'd fought for, was about to culminate in a single moment. The courtroom was a pressure cooker. My heart pounded in my chest, but I wasn't going to back down. This was the moment, the one I'd been working toward for so long. My life had been overshadowed by their lies and manipulation, but now it was time for me to reclaim it. I stood up slowly, the weight of the decision settling on my shoulders. I had fought for justice, but this was more than just a legal battle. This was my freedom. My family had tried to control me, to bend me to their will for years, but not anymore. The victory wasn't just going to be about winning the case, it was about breaking free. The judge cleared his throat, signaling the final moments. My mind flashed back to the months of gathering evidence, the sleepless nights, the betrayals, but none of it mattered now. I was here, standing tall, ready to take control of my destiny. My eyes moved over to Carlene. She sat across from me, her face a picture of defiance. But it was different now. Her earlier confidence was gone, replaced with something darker. She knew this was the end of the road for her, at least in my life. I'm not asking for your forgiveness, I said, my voice steady. What I want is for you to understand that your actions have consequences. For years, I've been your pawn, but no more. She didn't respond. Instead, she sat there, staring at me, the reality of the situation sinking in. For the first time, she looked vulnerable. The judge nodded, and the court's attention shifted to the new evidence, the damning testimonies, the forged contracts, the fraudulent dealings. My legal team had done their job, and now it was my turn to finish it. I am no longer a part of your game, I said, my voice ringing clear. I've spent my life being silenced, but no more. The room was still as everyone took in the gravity of my words. I had won. But it wasn't just the court case. I had won my freedom. As the judge delivered his ruling, the reality of the situation hit me. This was it. My life was finally my own. I had fought for it, and now I could begin to rebuild from the ground up. But even as I felt the victory surge through me, there was a bittersweet undercurrent. The years of manipulation, the scars left behind, they weren't going to disappear overnight. No amount of legal victories could erase the emotional toll this family had taken on me. Yet I knew I had done the right thing. I had fought for what was mine, not just my money, but my dignity. And for the first time, I felt free. Then, just as the courtroom was ready to clear, the final twist came. The tape. The one that had started this entire journey. Reeve stepped forward, his expression unreadable. He pressed play, and the room went quiet. The tape, my mother's manipulations, the lies, played for all to hear. The truth was laid bare. I felt the room shift, the weight of the past pressing down on everyone. But in that moment, I felt something else. Relief. I wasn't the only one who knew the truth anymore. The whole world did. I stood up, feeling a weight lift from my chest. As the final word was spoken, I looked around the room. This was it. The end of my story with them. But it was also the beginning of something new. A new life. A life free of their control. My eyes met Reeve's, and I saw the pride in his gaze. We had done this together. For once, I didn't feel like I was fighting alone. We walked out of that courtroom together, and I felt a spark of hope ignite in me. The road ahead was uncertain, but it was mine to walk. The future, no longer shaped by my family's lies, was open to me, and for the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. The courtroom buzzed with a tense anticipation. I sat there, a knot of emotions coiling in my stomach. Today was the culmination of everything I had fought for: the truth, the justice, and most of all, my freedom. I looked across the room, my heart heavy. Carlene sat there, her face set in a mask of defiance, but I could see the cracks beginning to form. She knew what was coming. She knew the truth was about to be laid bare for everyone to see. Then, Reeve pressed play. The tape that had started it all, the one my sister had tried to use to destroy me, now had the power to destroy her. The truth echoed in the silence that followed. The lies, the manipulation, the betrayal. It was all there, in black and white. My sister's voice, the one that had been so smug for so long, was now trembling with the weight of her guilt. The room went deathly quiet. For the first time, I saw Carlene falter. She couldn't deny it anymore. The evidence was irrefutable. The damage she'd done to my life was exposed for everyone to see. And for the first time, I felt the weight lift off my shoulders. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was free. "Is this how it's going to end?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with emotion. "After everything you've done, you still won't take responsibility? You still won't admit what you did?" Her silence was all the answer I needed. The judge nodded, clearly aware of the gravity of the situation. "We will take a brief recess to review the evidence," he said, his voice formal. I walked out of the courtroom with Reeve by my side, the air feeling different, lighter. For the first time in years, I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't worried about what they would do to me next. I had fought for myself, and I had won. But as we stepped outside, I felt a pang of sadness. This victory, as sweet as it was, came at a cost. My family was broken. The relationships I had once cherished were gone, and nothing would bring them back. I had severed ties with people I had loved, and that left a scar on my heart. Reeve squeezed my hand, a silent comfort. I didn't need words to understand what he was saying. He was here, with me, every step of the way, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I could finally breathe. Weeks passed, and the dust from the trial settled. The legal victory was mine, but the emotional toll was not easily undone. I had reclaimed my financial independence, but my soul needed healing. I spent my days rebuilding, not just my life, but myself. I focused on what made me happy, my work, my health, my newfound peace. It wasn't easy, but every day I felt stronger. The scars of my past would never disappear, but they no longer defined me. I wasn't the woman they had tried to make me. I was someone new, someone free, one. And as I looked to the future, I knew that no matter what came next, I had the strength to face it. I sat on the balcony, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink. The world seemed quieter now, calmer, and for the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. Reeve joined me, his presence solid and reassuring. He didn't need to say anything. I knew the battle had changed us both. We had come through it together, stronger than ever. "You did it," he said quietly, his eyes soft with pride. "You took back your life." I smiled, but it was a bittersweet smile. "It wasn't just me," I whispered. "It was us. I couldn't have done it without you." The weight of the past was still there, hovering in the background, but it no longer had power over me. I had walked away from the lies, the manipulation, and the heartbreak. I had embraced the freedom to live life on my own terms. But as the night grew darker and the stars began to twinkle in the sky, I knew that while my journey had taken me through the hardest battles of my life, it wasn't over. I had come this far, and I was ready for whatever came next. As I stand here today, looking back on everything I've been through, I want to share one simple truth. No matter how deep the wounds, you have the power to heal. Life will throw challenges your way, and people may betray you, but it's how you rise from those moments that defines who you are. The journey I went through wasn't just about fighting for justice. It was about reclaiming my identity and embracing the freedom to live on my own terms. So, if you're facing something similar, remember this. You don't need to let your past dictate your future. You have the strength to walk away from toxic relationships, the courage to fight for your rights, and the wisdom to learn from your struggles. Don't be afraid to take that first step towards change, because your story is yours to write. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever been through something that challenged you to your core? How did you find your strength to move forward? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let's connect. If you found this story meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that inspire. Let's keep the conversation going. And remember, no matter where you are, you have the power to start a new chapter. Stay strong, stay true, and keep moving forward.